All right, everyone. Elizabethwarren is getting called out for being the corrupt corporate con that she really is. And she is. I've mentioned this before, but this is more in-depth. Elizabethwarren pretends to be a grassroots progressive, like, on the left. She pretends to be the astute leftist, like, I saw the light and became a progressive, but with a couple of caveats to make her more palatable to voters. Because I'm a sane, mature adult. So I'm not like that Bernie Sanders over there. But it's all bullshit. It's all a ruse. If you look at what she's actually stood for throughout the years, it's neolib bullshit. It's standard neoliberal, centristic, center-left sort of Democrat standard fare. That's really what she is. She's like an Al Gore or something. She takes up a couple wedge issues here and there, but by and large just toes the party line. The same is true with her fundraising. She's pretending to be all grassroots. Oh, I don't suck Goldman Sachs off for their money. Yeah, you don't need to because you already did that as a senator. See, here's what happened. She sucked a lot of corporations off and got tens of millions of dollars, huge amounts of money as a senator. She's rolled that senatorial money over into a presidential campaign, so she doesn't need to fundraise as much. Isn't that lovely? The money's there, but she only has to suck off once to get it. And since it's already in her campaign coffers, she can use it as she sees fit. Also, what we're seeing is that increasingly, post-Citizens United, campaigns themselves can absolve themselves of any corporate money because a super PAC will form. Now, you can't coordinate with them, but you can always dog whistle. You can send out campaign brochures saying what you want said, more or less. You're not running afoul of any law as long as you've got a lawyer writing it up and you're careful about what you say. Like super PACs don't fundamentally coordinate with a campaign through back channels anyway. There's a big thing in 2016. Remember that shit that Veritas exposed with, I can't remember what's their name. There was a middleman business that was helping conduct basically what amounts to coordination between the Hillary Clinton campaign. And don't think this is just the Clinton campaign. This happens with every campaign because it's legal. You have a middleman firm that talks to the super PACs. They sort of give the super PACs orders. They also talk to the campaign. Now, they're not a super PAC. Campaign can talk to them. They're just consultants. Campaign says, well, this is what we would like done. Here's a readout, X, Y, and Z. They take that, scrap that, they write up the same thing. It's like a virgin coder, if you know what that is. And then they relay that to the super PACs. Well, here's your marching orders, guys. Here's what the campaign fundamentally should be about, says the consultant who got the idea from the fucking campaign in the first place. It's not coordination. They're not talking to the super PAC, not even through a back channel. There's no direct attempt at communication whatsoever. They're just talking to some consultants that they give millions and millions of dollars to and lawyer up whenever they go to a meeting. That's what happens. So Elizabethwarren coordinates with these groups too, and she's guilty of that. Trump does too, I'm sure. I don't know how many corporations like Donald Trump, it's probably more this time around than last considering the business tax reductions, although most of the tax relief went to the middle class. I got tax relief. I found it fun. I enjoy having a little extra money. I can buy a lot of V8 with that, or I can buy, more importantly, buy a lot of caffeine. My cup is in the wash right now, so I got one that's even bigger. I figured I needed even more caffeine. By the way, I figured out that using heavy creamer as opposed to standard like milk is really a lot better. Probably should have known that before. I'm an idiot sometimes, what can I say? But Elizabethwarren is not grassroots. She's corporate funded. They've just already bought her before the election began. She's not a progressive at all. She's a center leftist. She's basically she wants a little more taxes, a little more gun control, a little more regulation. It's that incremental frog boiling bullshit that we see from the authoritarians. Just a little bit more regulation won't hurt anything. A little bit more embezzlement from the public coffers for our corporate buddies isn't going to break the system. A little bit more unconstitutional regulation won't fundamentally overcome the idea of us being in a constitutional republic. That's what the Democrats are good at. Up until Trump, the Republicans have been very good at it too. Bush was a big-time authoritarian. He's worse than most of the others. He's worse than most of the Democrats up on stage. And that's saying something, considering that clown car. There aren't many sane people up on that stage. When they go to the next debate, there will be a couple of people there that are kind of cogent and understand, I think, what's going on a little bit. Like Yang, he's not dumb. He's just idealistic and crazy as a result. Beto, I think, has an idea. He's just a cringe master. And an ideologue. Like he doesn't actually mean most of the crazy shit he says. He's perfectly sane. He's just trying to brand himself. which is why he'll lose. And then Gabbard would be sane, but she won't be on the debate stage, so that leaves them one person short of sanity. It's looking like Joe Biden is going to be the adult on stage again. Age-wise, that makes sense, but I mean, the dude can barely speak at this point. He's having obvious cognitive issues. Now his eyes are bleeding. It's like, by the way, I was thinking about it. Isn't Dajjal supposed to be, like, arriving sometime, according to the apocalyptic, like, Shia side of Islam, and he's supposed to have, like, a big purple eye or some shit? Yeah, can you say maybe Joe Biden is Dajjal? He's going to win, and then he's going to cause a nuclear war, and then I guess the Messiah comes back, or Jesus, or Shaitan Akbar. He comes out of the... I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Iblis Akbar. Really fun times we live in. By the way, tomorrow is 9/11, so having Dajjal come, I guess fitting. No, the New York Times is now admitting that Elizabethwarren's fucked up. This is a New York, link in the description, it's a New York Times piece. The New York Times is calling out Elizabethwarren. Now, they get marching orders directly from the DNC. They're basically owned by the Democrats at this point. The DNC wants Elizabethwarren elected. Somebody in the New York Times editorial department said it's going to be conspicuous if we don't cover this story. It's probably going to be a big story. The fact that someone who's pretending to be a grassroots sort of hippie candidate, sort of like an older, sellout version of Jill Stein, is anything but. Now, I think people who aren't taken in by the bullshit, they already knew it. They know, Elizabethwarren's track record is more centristic than that. She's rebranded herself. She has been since before the last election. I pointed it out at the time. She was maneuvering herself into a situation where she was trying to walk that tightrope between the far left, which was going further and further to the left. And they've dragged her to the side successfully with AOC and all that bullshit. And the standard, the corporate Dems, she's trying to be safe enough for the DNC to give its backing to if Biden drops. Her only shot at winning this is if Biden dies or drops out or really disgraces himself with a massive gaffe. But because Biden's in such poor health, and because Biden's fucking nuts, that could very well happen. Biden, even when he was sane, he was known for saying off-the-wall shit that could endanger his career. How much more now that Grandpa's got dementia? At any given moment, he could forget the rules and he could walk up behind a female staffer and start groping her boobs. It could happen. We've seen weirder things come out of U.S. politics before. There have been duels to the death and weird shit like that in our political past. Who's to say that Joe Biden doesn't blow a gasket tomorrow, he gets a little funky, and all of a sudden he starts trying to rape some female reporter right on live TV? How the hell am I supposed to know that's not going to happen? By the way, a third of the Democratic Party is comfortable with the idea of this individual being the president of the United States. Maybe they shouldn't vote. Maybe you should stay fucking home on election day and just let Trump coast to re-election. I think the country would be in better hands. That's about all. Peace out.